I know that I would make a big effort to keep my eyes closed, my body sort of still, no shaking, and trying to keep my heartbeat and my breathing as sort of calm and still as possible, so that whatever was sitting or checking up on me would think I was still asleep.
Welcome back to Hey That's Weird. I'm your host Luke, and congratulations! You made it to part 2 of my first ever 2-part episode. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, what the heck are you even doing? Turn this off, go back, listen, then come back here. On part 1, Emily told her story of the house she grew up in and still lives in to this day. I'm not going to waste any time, let's just pick right back up where we left off with Emily's mum, Julia. This is the House in Peru, part 2. Let's get weird.
Hey, Luke. I'm with my mom. We're in a park close by to the house. So if you hear birds and people chatting, it's because of that. We decided to record this far from the house because my mom feels a bit uncomfortable talking about the things that happen in the house or the ghosts. So I'll let her explain a little bit better.
Hi, Luke. This is Emily's mom, Julia. So we've come out here and I'm trying to get my thoughts in order. It's just a feeling. I don't want to disrespect the ghosts. I feel that they're basically what's left, or the ghosts are left of my husband's family. They've held wakes there since forever. And the last one was of my husband's aunt. She died at the age of 103. I mean, obviously it was very, very sad, but it was also beautifully done. And here in South America, you have to bury your dead within, I think it is 24 hours. So it was all very quick. It's just a way to respect them.
Mom, could you tell me and Luke more about where we hold the wakes in the house?
Okay, well, there's a formal dining room and a large living room or drawing room, and then 2 smaller sitting rooms, all in sort of one section. And in one of those sitting rooms, there is a version of a virgin that grandfather was given because he repaired a church's virgin that had caught fire. He had a new one made, or the core, I think, was still the original one, and had it redone for the church. And in gratitude, they gave him this small one that they have in the house. And she's still there. She's I'll say it in Spanish, Virgen del Pilar. My husband's family is a mining family. So they have this in that one area, little sitting room, and all the wakes have been held there. The furniture's been removed, everything's gone, and the only thing that's left is the virgin, obviously the coffin with the deceased person, and they put big tall candles, one at each corner of the coffin, and that's it. Now all of this is sort of open plan, no doors, so they're sort of like arches from one area to another. So that's where the wakes would be held.
We kind of refer to that room as being slightly cursed. Do you think it's because of all the wakes we've had there?
I think so, yeah, because it's sort of like a cutoff, isn't it? Somebody's died and that's where they go. Because I've noticed over the years, when I had a friend over to tea, just the 2 of us, we'd sit there because it's a very nice area. It's lovely sofas and armchairs. And I'd bring in tea on a tray and we'd sit and have a cup of tea and a chat and talk about anything. but then that friend would grow distant. And it happened to me on 2 occasions. My eldest happened to her. And one of the last times where she was with her ex-boyfriend, as I say ex-boyfriend, he was mad keen on marrying her. Yeah, they went their separate ways. So, yeah, I try and not sit there with somebody I really care about and have tea or even chat, because I don't want to lose that friendship. One of the things that I do every day is I go into those rooms and open up the shutters and the windows to get fresh air. And then in the evening, I close it all up. And as I walk in, I'm always sort of positive thoughts and saying, good morning, it's a beautiful day. I'm going to open up the windows. And so, sunlight can come in. But I never try not to think about anything beyond that. And in the big drawing room, that's where we set up the Christmas tree. It's a beautiful space.
Another thing we wanted to comment was that we've sort of realized that we instinctively stop listening to spooky podcasts, or we stop watching scary movies or series in the evening because I guess we feel really spooked out because the house does have a feeling to it.
And I remember Suzanna and your friends used to come sleepovers, and they were always a bit frightened. But because they were all together in the little sitting room, in their sleeping bags, that was all right. And the doors to the rest of the house were locked. And that was one of the things that used to drive me crazy. And I don't know why they did it, but every single door would be locked every night, properly locked with a key. And in the mornings, most of them would be unlocked, but not all of them. So I would come to a door thinking it was unlocked, and it'd be locked. And it was annoying, because then I had to go look for the keys. My husband and his youngest sister, she was my age, used to have premonition dreams. And they would know when things would happen, not just bad things, but good things too. But my husband decided he started taking sleeping pills because he didn't want to know. He didn't want to know. And his younger sister used to be aware of things happening. And one of the dreams my husband had was when he was working up in a mine in a place called Cerro de Pasco, working for a French company. And he'd had this dream of looking down into a shining bowl from up high, looking into this bowl. Anyway, his aunt managed to get him an interview with this American company to go work at a different mine. And so he went to the interview. He had to actually go there to the mine, Toquepala. And he said that when he saw the mine, it was his dream. He saw the bowl, which was the open pit mine, an open pit copper mine. And we lived there. Well, he did for 10 years. I lived there for 7 of those 10.
Maybe we can talk a bit more about the spooky things that happen to the aunts and uncles.
Well, all I know is that they have seen things, but they don't talk about it. They never talk about it. And I don't know, we just don't bring it up. Maybe if we were out of the house, we probably would. But yeah, we never, ever talk about it. They're also very Catholic, religious. They're very old-fashioned in their beliefs. So I don't know if that has something to do with it or not. In spite of everything we've said, I've always felt welcomed in the house. I've always felt okay. Although I was just telling my daughter that in my bedroom, I've noticed over the years that I can never stay very long in the bathroom or in the bedroom. I'm always out of there fast. And but why didn't I do that? I wanted to put cream on my elbows and I didn't. And, things like that. And I'd have to go back and do it. And then I wonder if it's got something to do with ghosts or, because that is my husband's grandparents. That was their bedroom as well. So without realizing that I was rushing out, but I was rushing out. We've made the kitchen. The kitchen is very much ours. And it was always a friendly place. It's a lovely, bright, sunny room, and it's quite a big kitchen, really, for modern standards. And we have a little tiny sort of everyday dining room next door that we are in constantly. Those are lovely, friendly places, as well as the terrace. We've made the terrace ours.
I think what we've noticed is that by making the kitchen and like the daily dining room like our spaces, they do feel safer in a way.
Yeah. But yet Suzanna, my eldest daughter, and 3 friends were sitting at the table in the kitchen, chatting and having a cup of coffee, I don't know, or a glass of wine. And one of her friends looked down, and between her and Suzanna, there was this little white dog. And she looked up, because Suzanna saw it also, says, "In this little dog?" Suzanna says, "I don't know. Where has it come from?" And they looked up at their other friends to, look, and it was no longer there. And what I understand is that one of my husband's uncles had a little dog, a little white dog. I don't remember its name, but yeah.
Hey, Luke, remember when I told you about what happened to me in my childhood room? Well, talking to my mom now, we think we might have figured out why that room has such heavy energy to it.
It used to be my husband's uncle's bedroom. He had a horrendous car crash when he was young, in early 20s, I think, or late teens. He basically tried to break every bone in his body, but he didn't. But he was bedridden for over a year, and he was never really quite right afterwards. He had a limp, and he wasn't quite right in his head. I know that he would get very angry easily. He would also cool off really fast. So he was, I don't know what you call that, but he'd get irate fast and then over silly things, and then it would go once he'd managed to burst out, and then he'd be fine. But yeah, he was a bit frightening. And I know that his sisters, my husband's aunts and my husband's mom, used to sort of try and put a wedge and protect him and us from his outbursts. I think he was troubled, he didn't have a regular life because of his accident.
After hearing from both Emily and her mum, Julia, it was clear to me that there was a lot going on in this house. Too much to ignore. Multiple family members with similar weird experiences. And then, to my surprise, I received another recording from Emily from her sister, Suzanna, who had even more stories to tell. Here's Suzanna's story.
So this is Suzanna, Emily's sister. I'm going to share the things that happened to me in the house in Lima. I moved into that house with my parents when I was 4 years old. I think I've always been scared at night. Not so much now as an adult. I think the older I got, the more I sort of blocked it. And today I would say I'm a skeptic. I don't really believe in ghosts. I love a good ghost story, though. I can't deny what I've seen. I've seen things, felt things, but I sort of gaslight myself into believing they weren't real, or maybe I was just, I don't know, crazy at the moment. So I was saying I sort of moved in there when I was 4 years old. I didn't really sleep the whole night through in my bed or in my room until I was probably 10. I used to spend part of my night in my parents' bed or in their bedroom. I used to camp next to their bed. They were very patient to accept that from me and not shame me. I'm very grateful they did, that they were so patient with me. To begin with, it was scary because I came from a very, very tiny little mining town in the middle of nowhere from the south of Peru. So there was, no noise. It was so quiet. You could basically hear static That's how quiet it was. And all of a sudden living in the biggest city in the country, which is loud. It's a loud city. It was also during sort of like the period of political violence when things were escalating and bombs were going off. And they would go off very close to where we lived. My bedroom windows looked out onto the street. So yeah, it was scary. So I would sleep with my parents. And I think it gave them a little bit of peace of mind as well that I was there with them, sort of like safe. So yeah, my cousins lived in that house as well because it's like 2 flats, the ground floor and the first floor. But they would be ginormous flats. The house basically has 2 wings. It's sort of like an L shape. So one of the sides is where you have the rooms and the bathrooms, and the other side is sort of like the more social side where you have the parlors, I guess you would call them, the dining room, the big dining room, the small daily dining room, the kitchen, you know. So it's a house that was built for a different era that no longer exists. So my cousins lived on the first floor and I lived on the ground floor. And they spooked me. They told me about ghosts and things. And I was, open to it. I was very receptive to it and I was very scared. But now as a grown-up, I figure they must have heard it from someone, They didn't come up with those ideas from no one or from nowhere. They must have heard it from, our relatives there, that there was something or there is something. So there was one night that my parents had, tucked me in bed and I'd fallen asleep. And I would wake up around 10 at night, 11 o'clock. The lights in the living room, which was right outside my room, were still on. I think my parents must have still been awake. And I opened my eyes and I saw my mum. And she was sort of walking towards me, just standing there, looking at me lovingly in her pink dressing gown. And I stretched my hand out to touch her. She was going to give me a kiss. And I sort of, I don't know, I guess I wanted a cuddle or something. And when I touched her, she disappeared. I was spooked. I got out of my bed and ran to my parents' room. I was so scared. I was terrified. And they reassured me. They said that it was probably just a dream. There was nothing there. Yeah, I was very scared after that. I don't know if they managed to get me to sleep in my own bed after that, but anyway. Then there would be other things that happened in my room. There were these tiny little sort of like piano sets. They were very sort of like trendy, I guess, in the 80s. They were tiny. They were sort of the size of like a calculator, and the buttons looked like calculator buttons, but they were little pianos. And there were some in a bag in my closet. And I knew they were there. But sometimes at night, you could hear them playing, like the different buttons being pressed. It would terrify me, but nothing would, could get me to open my eyes or get up and out of bed when that was happening. I was so scared. I would sort of talk myself out of being afraid by saying, no, it must be something else that's pressing on them. That's why, they're making a sound, because that's what would wake me up. And one day I decided to go into my closet and sort of pull them out and see, to stop them from waking me up. And I decided to sort of like press on that. They were inside like a bag or something. And I decided to press on it. I sort of like put all my weight on it to make them beep. And they didn't. There was no way I was getting a sound out of them. So I thought maybe the batteries run out now. So I took them out and started pressing on them. And it was the exact same sound. You had to press them with your fingers to make them sound. So that really spooked me as well. I just got rid of them. Then as a teenager, I remember being very into ghost stories and supernatural stuff, and I had friends who were very into it as well, and sort of like reading tarot cards and talking about separating your spirit from your body, and sort of like I can't really remember what it was called, but anyway, visiting other places. I was sort of thinking about that one evening, one night, and I was in my room and I had my door open and I was just sort of like messing around and just sort of thinking about all these things. And I could see the doorway from my room to the living room, which was all dark. The only light on was the one in my bedroom. When I saw this woman walk across the living room in front of my room. She was all dressed in white, like in a white nightgown. And I just thought, she is going to open the door into another passageway right now. I'm going to hear it, and it's going to be like my sister or someone. And nobody did. And then I thought, why is she going in that direction? I mean, it doesn't really make sense. But it really spooked me. Really, really spooked me. Since then, I've always slept with the door closed in that house. I used to always sleep with the door open, but since that happened, I always slept with the door closed. It doesn't really make sense to sleep with the door closed in Peru, there are earthquakes. It was safer to sleep with the door open. But yeah, since then, my door was firmly closed. Then what would usually happen at night, and it happens several times, is that I would feel someone sort of leaning on my bed with their hands on either side of my body, and I could feel the bed sort of shifting. You know when someone leans on the bed, or someone coming and sitting sort of beside me on the bed, and you could feel their weight sort of like sinking in the bed. And then they would get up and go. I guess some people would explain it as sleep paralysis, and maybe, I don't know. I know that I would make a big effort to keep my eyes closed, my body sort of still, no shaking, and trying to keep my heartbeat and my breathing as sort of calm and still as possible, so that whatever was sitting or checking up on me would think I was still asleep. One of the last sort of things that happened to me before I sort of like really, I don't want to see or feel anything again. I was with a friend in the kitchen, and we were just chatting. Can't remember what we were chatting about. And I didn't have any pets at that moment. We didn't have dogs or cats, anything. And when we both looked down, because we saw something, and she just sort of looked at me and said, "Do you have a dog now?" And I said, "No, but I just saw one." It's just like, "I did too, but it's no longer here." And a few nights later, I was having a very sort of unpleasant dream with very unpleasant dark thoughts. And all of a sudden, I felt this furry little thing sort of walking across my body and biting me hard to sort of wake me up from that dream. But obviously, I didn't have a dog or a cat or anything furry. But I remember feeling it. It was sort of like, thank you for getting me out of that very nasty, negative dream. I was grateful. It wasn't anything evil or anything like that. It was actually, that one was quite sweet. I've always felt this sort of sensation of someone watching me as I walk through the corridors or from one room to the next. You're more aware of it at night when it's dark, but I would say it's there during the day as well. My husband is completely terrified of the whole house. There was a time when the house felt very, very heavy. It was before my great aunt, who died at 103, died. There is no other way of describing it as heavy, like heavy energy. A guy came to pick me up because we were going out on a date. And, I sort of hadn't really finished getting ready, and I asked him in. And he walked in to the house, and I sort of said, you can wait for me here while I, just sort of put my shoes on or whatever. And when I came back, he was like,
has anyone died here recently?
And I just said, no. And he said,
it's just, there's a very sort of like heavy energy in this house. It feels very, very heavy, like sad.
And I said, I know, it's a bit weird like that. And he said, Anyway, we went out on that date. It didn't really work out. But it was interesting that he, mentioned it because he didn't know anything about it. Quite a few people would mention the energy in the house. And then my great aunt died, and we held her wake in the house. That night was a funky night. It was just my sister, my mom, and I. And when we went to bed, we all sort of said goodnight. I think we were a little bit nervous about what it was going to be like, In general, the idea of sleeping with a dead body in the house isn't the most comforting. I don't know why we didn't just decide to sort of like camp in one room, all three of us together. But anyway, none of us left our rooms that night. And I know that lights were switched on, that doors were opened and closed that night. And in the morning, when we were up and having breakfast, I asked, and we all asked each other if any of us had left their room. And we all said no. And then we just sort of kept on going with our lives. Yeah, it was that night. That was weird. But after she was taken to be buried and it all came to an end, the house definitely felt lighter. It even felt like there was more light. It felt lighter and brighter. And since then, it hasn't felt as heavy. I would say it doesn't feel heavy at all, but I don't live there anymore. So yeah, but I do go visit quite often with my husband and son. My son is 7 now, and he is terrified of being on his own in the house or in the dark. He is, very, very scared. I haven't told him about ghosts or anything, but he's scared. When he was a lot younger, he used to wave or say hello to people through windows that are within the house. And I would just explain it away by thinking that he was saying hello to his reflection. But I've always sort of had the doubt that maybe he saw something, someone saying hello to him. So anyway, those are the experiences I've had. As I say, I'm a bit of a skeptic, not like a big believer of ghost stories, which is funny, I think, because of the things that I've seen and experienced. I've sort of blocked it out. I haven't really gone through anything like that again. I can't say that I've seen anything since or felt anything. I think that mainly it's just me blocking it because I just don't want to. So yeah, that's my story.
Hey Luke, it's morning here. Weather's a little bit cloudy, but it's actually quite nice. It's not too cool. I'm currently sitting in the daily dining room table, and I've been thinking a lot about what we've been talking about. At first, I was very anxious. I was very afraid to share my stories, I think, mostly because I didn't know what was going to happen. But I'm glad I did. I feel braver now. I feel pretty good to be living in this house, and I'm starting to understand that the spirits around me aren't necessarily mean towards me. Maybe towards other people because they don't know them, or perhaps they understand or see something that we don't. I definitely think that these spirits, in a way, care for us. I'm glad that because of the stories that we've been telling you, we've managed to talk about it a bit more. And my hope is that I can talk about it a lot more with other family members and try to document as many stories as possible. Because in the end, it's a history of our family. That's something that I definitely want to record and save. I think living in this house has definitely opened myself up to experiencing things that perhaps I wouldn't experience otherwise. I see things now, and before I used to tell myself that I had made it up, but now I know that what I see is real. I got to see a friend's husband who had passed a couple weeks ago. I saw someone as well. They sort of just ran behind me, crouching down as if they didn't want to show themselves. I know they're there. I'm also aware that what I'm seeing can't necessarily hurt me, but I'm not looking for any kind of other interaction besides just seeing them. I'm very happy living in this house, even with all of our ghosts and spirits. They're a part of our life. I think it's lucky to have that. I'm glad I have this connection to this other side that I wouldn't have otherwise.
Our time in Peru, sadly, was coming to an end. I messaged Emily to see if there was anything else she wanted to add before we said our goodbyes. This is what she wanted to say.
Well, I've been away visiting this amazing coffee plantation where they produce some of the best coffee I've ever had in my life. I was lucky to meet people that have had these strange interactions with ghosts and spirits. And what I've noticed about this is that whenever we talk about ghosts, people seem to perk up. I think we're actively interacting with spirits a lot more than we think. I think it's safe to say that everybody has had a hey, this is weird moment. And I'm very lucky that I'm getting to meet more and more people that are open to it and understand what it is and that are eager to talk about it. I'm very lucky, and I'm very thankful to you for being able to be open and wanting to invite people to participate in this amazing podcast. So thank you, and I hope you get more listeners because we're out here, and I think we should share our stories about ghosts and spirits and other worldly creatures. So thank you again, Luke. You are the coolest dude ever. And yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say. Bye. Take care.
I just want to reiterate here that Emily absolutely came through with not only her own story, but her mother's and her sister's too. I literally cannot thank her enough, and I hope to make it to Peru at some point to see the house in person. A massive, massive thanks to Emily, her family, and the house itself for making these 2 episodes possible. If you listened to these episodes and thought, hey, I've got a pretty weird story, then reach out. Let's make an episode together. You can reach me at heythat'sweirdpodcast@gmail.com, on Instagram at heythat'sweirdpodcast, or via the new Discord, which is linked in the Instagram bio. We're back to regular scheduled programming for the next episode. Thanks for making it this far, and I'll see you in a few weeks. And until next time, stay weird.